Whether it's because you don't want the hassle of bringing a separate acoustic guitar down to the gig, or maybe you need to switch between electric and acoustic guitar sounds within the same song, or maybe you just want a slightly more acoustic guitar sound out of your electric for fun, for playing at home, you know, a wider variety of sounds. Whatever the reason, in this video I'm going to go through as many ways as I can think of to get an acoustic guitar sound out of your electric guitar. Let's start with the absolute fundamentals, which is which electric guitar you choose to do this with. You know, I think it makes a big difference, especially in the types of pickups you choose to use. If you've got a guitar with high output humbuckers, then you are starting a little bit on the back foot. Humbuckers tend to have more of a mid-focus sound, and high output pickups tend to have a more aggressive, harder attack to the sound. It's not impossible by any means to get an acoustic guitar sound out of a guitar with humbuckers, but the best you can probably do is neck pickup or both pickups together, and think about lowering the volume control a little bit on your guitar, just maybe to lower the output of those pickups. As long as it doesn't make it too muddy, you know, you still want plenty of high end. Low output single coil pickups I find a lot easier to work with for this. They often have a softer attack and a natural mid scoop to the sound. I've had some good results using a Strat on its neck pickup or neck and middle combined. Now let's look at some basic EQ settings that you can use to make it sound more like an acoustic guitar. I was doing those last examples with the EQ set flat on the amp and the bright switch off. I'd recommend trying to go for a generally mid-scooped EQ setting with plenty of highs, rather than the more typical mids forward vintage rock electric sound. You know, electric guitars and amps are generally pretty heavy on the mids naturally anyway, so scoop the mids and have lots of that high-end sparkle and air to the sound. The next thing I think is worth mentioning is reverb choice. It's not necessarily a game changer or anything, but it can help. Natural reverbs like room or hall reverbs tend to work best for a more believable acoustic sound. I think they're a better choice than, say, spring, plate or modulated reverbs, which can sound really nice, but it's more of a processed, unnatural type reverb when you use those. So that's what I recommend. See what you think. Okay, I feel like that's all the basics, but before we get into acoustic simulator pedals and all that, be aware if you have a good EQ pedal, you can use that EQ pedal as an acoustic simulator as well. Helps if you have a good one. I've got this fancy parametric one that I'm using here, and you can see by the display roughly how I'm using it. It can arguably sound less like an acoustic guitar than a proper acoustic simulator pedal, but I find it can sound a little less artificial than some acoustic simulator pedals and a bit more complementary to your electric guitar sound. So if you have an EQ pedal already, it's worth trying. Next is to get a dedicated acoustic simulator pedal. I've got the Boss AC3 and it's a really nice no-nonsense way to apply an extreme mid-cut whilst boosting the highs and the presence in the sound. The AC3 has a pretty nice natural reverb included in it as well. The downside is that because of the extreme nature of the adjustment in the EQ, it can sound a bit unnatural and it's quite difficult to make fine adjustments to it using the limited parameters on the pedal. See what you think of it compared to the EQ pedal that I was using before. The next thing, and I find this makes a big difference, is to route the signal from the acoustic simulator pedal into an acoustic guitar amp or the PA. Suddenly you're not boxed into those mid frequencies of a standard electric guitar amp anymore. This is what I like to do if I really want a pretty believable acoustic guitar sound out of my electric at a gig. It's really good fun and it often gets some good reactions as well. When I do it like this, I like to use an acoustic guitar amp on stage with me so I can monitor the sound and so that I can make some final EQ adjustments using the amp as well. Then I take a direct out from the amp into the PA, and that way hopefully most of the work has already been done for the sound engineers. Taking an extra amp to the gig never really bothered me too much because this acoustic amp has some amp modelling for electric guitars, so I liked having it around as a backup for my main electric guitar amp. You can go direct straight into the PA from the acoustic simulator pedal, but just know if you do that, then you might need a DI box. You're definitely going to need some sort of stage monitoring setup, and you're putting in just a little bit more trust into the sound engineers to do the final adjustments on the EQ. Be aware as well that a lot of acoustic guitar amps have acoustic modelling right in the amp, so you may not actually need an acoustic simulator pedal. You can just use the simulator in the amp. All you'd need then is a simple A/B switch to switch between your electric amp and your acoustic amp. And while we're on A/B switches, if you're using an acoustic simulator on a multi-effects that doesn't have multiple outputs, then you can use the A/B switch there as well to route the signal to the PA or an acoustic amp when you're using the acoustic simulator effect. That's as far as I can really go with the equipment that I've got, but there are other options to think about. There's guitar processors like the Boss VG800 that requires a special pickup system and everything that can emulate lots of different instruments, like, you know, synths and banjos to different electric guitars and obviously acoustic guitars. Putting a piezo pickup in your electric guitar is another option, like the Fishman Power Bridge pickups. They do actually use the acoustic sound of your electric to produce the sound. You know, they're worth looking into if you don't mind a more permanent modification to your electric guitar. That's all the different ways of making an electric sound like an acoustic that I can think of anyway. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything I've missed or what your favourite way of making an electric sound sound like an acoustic is.